Emergencies can't wait for us to have some theoretical debate about some better idea that will never, ever come to pass.
You know, I'm a voter. Aren't you supposed to lie to me and kiss my butt?
So this psychopath, Hillary Clinton, has been back in the news lately. She started throwing her feelers out there in the press for a potential presidential run once again. The last thing we need on this planet, another Hillary run. I don't know if that's serious or not. It's the Clinton playbook to constantly pretend you're thinking about running so they stay relevant and they can keep their pay-to-play corruption schemes going. If she pretends that she's on the cusp of the halls of power, it's much easier to get giant speaking fees, giant donations into your charity, right? Because, you know, it really makes sense for rich people to not just do charity, but to give money to other rich people to do charity, right? That's how that works. And then all the people who, you know, gave you money for charity wind up meeting you while you're Secretary of State. I don't know. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. So we're potentially looking at Hillary barking up her ass again. And then she's also active on Twitter. She is subtweeting without saying. I guess the implication is she's talking to Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. This is her tweet. MLK Jr. said, "I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that the law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress." End quote. This is a subtweet. The letter from Birmingham jail, the white moderates King is speaking of are a bunch of religious leaders from the South who are urging him, you know, now's not the time, don't do it like this, you know, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And he came to the conclusion that people like that were almost a bigger enemy to the civil rights movement than a Ku Klux Klaner, than an actual fucking full-blown racist. The modern embodiment of those white Southern spiritual leaders, of the white moderate that Martin Luther King was calling out, is the Democratic Party. And the absolute poster child of the Democratic Party, especially this white moderate Democratic Party that will block the flow of social progress, is Hillary Clinton. She is the poster child of white moderates. She is literally the worst fucking human being on the planet. Whether it's universal health care will never come to pass.
Emergencies can't wait for us to have some theoretical debate about some better idea that will never, ever come to pass.
She's also almost more than a white moderate. She's like a conservative. Because let's not forget that there was also activists showing up to her Clinton events talking about her extreme racism in the 90s and her support for the crime bill, calling black kids super predators.
Body cameras. There's more work to be done, but you gotta lay down these markers, you gotta build toward common sense gun reform, criminal justice reform, and all the like. So I think we've got we've got somebody saying here, we have to bring them
for mass incarceration.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
I'm not a super predator, Hillary Clinton.
Okay, fine, we'll talk about it.
Can you apologize to black people for mass incarceration?
Well, can I talk? And then maybe you can listen to what I say. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. There's a lot of issues in this campaign. The very first speech that I gave back in April was about criminal justice reform and about
predators.
You're being rude.
That's
not appropriate.
Predators.
This is not appropriate.
That's rude.
Now, you want to hear the facts, you just want to talk.
I know that you called black youth super predators in 1994. Please explain the record. Explain it to us. You owe black people an apology.
Well,
excuse us. That's an inappropriate
if you will give me a chance to talk, I'll approach your side. You know what? Nobody's ever asked me before. You're the first person to ask me, and I'm happy to address it, but you are the first person to ask me here. Okay, back to the issues. The issue is that
She's an odious creature. She's even using identity to serve the big banks who crush the powerless, to make sure they get every single cent out of any investment that they make. These big banks that support wars that will absolutely destroy black and brown people and poor people abroad all across the world. These giant banks, right? Disconnecting economics and race as if they're two things that do not go together. And they're, intertwined and interlinked in a way that you cannot ever separate them, especially here in America.
if we broke up the big banks tomorrow, and I will, if they deserve it, if they pose a systemic risk, I will, would that end racism?
She's an odious, odious creature. And let's not forget that MLK was also extremely anti-war and anti the war in Vietnam. Don't forget how Hillary Clinton treats foreign policy, war, the deaths of other human beings.
We came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No, I'm sure it did.
Hillary Clinton, who turns her back on giving us universal health care. Hillary Clinton, who is pro-big banks, pro-corporations. Hillary Clinton, who helped give us Donald Trump. She did the Pied Piper candidacy strategy, which was to elevate Ben Carson, which was to elevate Donald Trump, and to elevate Ted Cruz because she thought they would be the easiest opponents for her to take on. And look where that got us. So she's a warmonger. She's pro-corporation. She's racist. She is responsible for a lot of the economic oppression we see, for a lot of the police violence we see. She is responsible for destabilization in the Middle East, millions of lives. She's responsible. When she was in the State Department, she went to Haiti and she played hardball with Haiti because they raised their minimum wage. And that would affect U.S. corporations because we use Haiti as cheap labor to make T-shirts and undergarments and things like that. So on the behest of Hanes or Fruit of the Loom or whoever the fuck, Hillary Clinton went to Haiti and got them to reverse a minimum wage increase. And it was so low. It was like pennies. And they increased it by a couple of other pennies. And she went down there to make sure all of those people who are predominantly black and mostly women do not get a raise. That's Hillary Clinton. That's who she is. She's not only a white moderate, but she's a white conservative. She's actually works against the interests of people. Like, she's not even that kind of person who has her heart in the right place and just, would prefer peace than to justice. No, she actually prefers war. That's what she prefers. Hillary Clinton is a horrible human being. And seeing her subtweet Kyrsten Sinema is junior Hillary Clinton. And the whole thing that Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are somehow the bad guys, how they're holding the Democratic Party hostage, and how, those two people are stopping progress and holding back the whole Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is mostly people who think and agree with them. They're the two who are taking the fall for these particular bills. And Joe Manchin just always loves to be the fall guy for, all the evil shit. If it wasn't them two, if we replaced them two, it's going to be 2 other people or 4 other people or 10 other people, whatever the numbers dictate. If they need 4 people to prevent a bill that would help people from passing, 4 people won't vote for it. If they need 4 people to pass a bill that will hurt people and help corporations, 4 people will vote for it. That's how it works with these guys. So stop voting for the Democrats, please. Don't vote for the Republicans, they're worse, but please stop voting for this party and acting like anything positive is going to happen. It's filled with psychopaths. It's filled with crazy people like Hillary. That's what it's filled with.
They said no, she has to go.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, Swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I
yes.
just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people again.
Okay. Is it working?
Yeah.